So this is like
Maybe
an
we should do
imaginary
a
thing,
standing lunch date at the point.
At
It's to
the
pull
point.
out this table. We meet here every month.
Let's meet here in 8 years, guys, right here.
Change it up from India kebab.
Yeah. Well, because Britt and I we have lunch about once every other month or so. And
Oh, really?
we talk about music. And
Things.
Matters of
arts
consequence.
and matters of consequence and what's happening and going on.
Reno music venues as a whole. I feel like they've been evolving. We've been getting more and more spots here and there. Ultimately, I personally think it's a very good thing, having so many options, really quality places to play. I feel like it's good for the culture.
Reno always kind of does booms and busts, and this happens kind of across the board as far as the arts go, but especially I think with music, and every aspect of music in Reno tends to go in booms and busts. And it's often because there's like sort of key bands or key figures or key venues that are like sort of become anchors, and then they have their time and they come and go, and they're certain key people will move out of town or a venue will close, and it'll kind of go into a little bit of a bust.
So we're in a boom right now then.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. It seems like it doesn't quite dip as low as it used to. I honestly think that one of the biggest things that's gone towards stabilizing that boom bust cycle has been Holland, and having a youth-oriented music venue that's stable and is there and has been there for nearly 10 years means that even if the booms and busts happen on a smaller scale within the larger picture.
The range is smaller.
Yeah, the range is smaller, and it's because there's something that grounds it a little bit more. And I think that there's a few things that have helped that, but I think nothing's helped it as much as Holland.
It's a unique outlet for a lot of people in that generation that wouldn't have a place to go otherwise, for sure. So I've always admired that about your business. There's been generations of kids growing up here. We're three Reno natives, and I'm sure when we were all growing up, we wanted something like that. There were a lot of born under 21s in Reno growing up in the last 30 years. How did you make it actually a reality? That's amazing that you could take that idea and actually make it a tangible thing.
I mean, it definitely wasn't me. It was like you were talking about Clint and band members that you had, Ty, Mike Modine at the time, Joe Ferguson, who was an old hardcore kid that started the food co-op out of his garage,
right.
Sound and Fury, the record store.
Sound and Fury.
It was definitely, but exactly that, kids that grew up here that wanted it and needed it and didn't have it, who were able to give a lot of time and energy and love to making sure it happened in some way.
Birds fly above the sky. I slip down the birds fly above the sky. I slip down the birds fly above the sky. I slip down birds fly above the sky. I slip down. If you say just where I'm going, it's the same story. Read it here in this coverage, and I can't go back to what's real, what's out there. You don't know, you're not real. You're not real. You're not real. You're not real.
And when I was growing up, it was still very much like the casino culture had a real strong hold on what Reno was about culturally. And I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, even when I was in high school, we used to drive down. We'd drive to San Francisco, 3.5 hours away, and we'd see a concert, and then we'd drive back. Like once a month, you know, or more sometimes. Yeah, just drive down there, see a concert, and drive back. You wouldn't get back until 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you go to high school the next day.
Obviously, I was a band geek. I was in the first 4-year class of McQueen. And I was from a musical, an entertainment family. My dad was a light director at Harrah's for 41 years. So he told me not to do lights. So here I am not doing lights. And, but, growing up with them, all these great shows like the ones you were talking about would never come to Reno. Kiss never came here. And I was this completely distraught 8-year-old, wanted to see Kiss more than anything. And I was like, well, how can that happen with all this great music here? Because so much amazing talent moved here in the 60s and the 70s to play in the showrooms. It was steady work. They didn't have to be on the road anymore. They could put roots down, start families. So either we've had, they're still here, or they've had very talented offspring. So there was like this huge surge of talent ready to go express itself. And if we wanted to go see a show like Kiss or anything cool like you, we do the pilgrimage over the hill. And then I was part of the Great Nevada Brain Drain when I went to school, and was like, okay, here's how a bigger market handles this issue. Here are options. And then when I graduated and miraculously landed the gig at Granny's house, when I came back, it was like, oh, okay, now I can see how I can help be part of the solution for these bored Reno kids. And it was in the 90s, it wasn't that much better. There was cool venues for sure then. It was Blue Lamp, being probably the most historic example of that. But the under 21s were still bored to tears.
Well, because Blue Lamp was a bar. I mean, Blue Lamp was the first bar I ever went to.
Oh.
And the Atomics stuck me in.
That's killer.
So yeah, they played an all ages show earlier in the day, and they snuck in a bunch of kids through the back door of the Blue Lamp. I was fortunate to be dating a really cute girl at the time, so I think that's why I got to sneak in on her coattails.
But that's where a lot of the bands I was working with were gigging, and that's where that was like a hub that then spread to Area 51 and other venues that kind of spawned from there. But still, it really wasn't until Holland that the kids that were under that and couldn't go to those shows really had a place to follow it, other than in their garages and doing their own basement shows, the Ryland Street House and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People gather now. Together we are standing with powers to compel. Our minds like diamond whisper that the very thread of life comes at a cost. What are we gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
We can't reverse this damage.
You can't reverse it all.
We should not just give in. Don't give in, don't give in, don't give in until the gears of this machine all fall apart.
We're moments away from sweet escape. We made mistakes, fell from grace, shattered space. It's moments from midnight. Watch it fall down. Watch it fall down. Watch it fall down.
My favorite thing about Reno music that I always like to mention is that I think that the size of our market in some ways benefits the music scene, because it's small enough that, well, it's big enough to sustain a music scene. There's a lot of different kinds of bands. There's a lot of different kinds of niches. There's a lot of, there's a big diverse scene, but small enough that you tend to know everybody.
Yeah.
If you start going out and meeting people, it's not too long before you start making connections all across the scene. So you know people, involved with the Philharmonic, and you know people in the hip hop bands, and you know people in the punk rock bands and the metal bands, and these aspects of the scene, versus someplace like the East Bay,
Right.
where the hardcore kids and the punk rock kids don't even talk to each other,
Right.
and there's like really huge separations between all the different scenes, and Reno is so small that you don't have that. So musicians know each other from like all kinds of different aspects, all kinds of different genres. I mean, it's weird. Anybody who comes to Reno is like, the scene here is different than it is in other places.
Yeah.
And it's not just the quantity of the talent, it's that it's a little bit off.
It's like our little baby. We take care of it. We give it what it needs sometimes. Like, it could be a band, like a new band that's starting in a garage somewhere. Like, Reno doesn't have a band that sounds like us. It's going to be really cool. Like, we're just thinking like, some professional looking videos, or maybe like a hub to find new local bands. I don't think that exists in Reno. So let's do it because Reno needs it.
I don't think
Like
that
this, it's this want to make sure Reno does well. Well, like you graduated from USC. You could have opened a studio anywhere. You came back here.
Yeah, I was advised by Shelly Yakis, who was Sting's engineer on a tour of A&M Records, to go be a big fish in a small pond rather than try to be a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
So if you're from a smaller market, try going back to where you were. And
Yeah.
Granny's house was there, and I was like, well, we'll give it a shot. And ironically, 10 years later, Shelly happened to visit Granny's house because he was visiting Tahoe.
Oh,
And
nice.
I'm like, you're the reason I'm here.
Did you punch him?
No, I took him to lunch, and right over here, as a matter of fact. And but there's two wild points you guys just brought up I wanted to follow up on. One is the underdog mentality. For the artists that have broken out of Reno that few people know are from Reno, like Eric Whitaker is Northern Nevada,
Yeah.
the choir guru who owes me $50. And Brian Landris, jazz sax guru, is now in the last 8 years, I think, of Downbeat's top list of low wind players. He's been there. Sam and I, all these, Kevin Seconds, they're just like, okay, we aren't from a market that nurtures it and feeds it to us. We have to build it ourselves. So that's how I was going to tie that into what you were just
Look
saying.
at you, man.
And then the second point was a client of mine came up with the best analogy of the music or creative people versus the creative intakers. The people who make music, make videos, whatever, they're the wizards. Versus the people who take it in, who aren't artists, those are the muggles, right? And the muggles are the ones who just enjoy art at face value, being performance, recordings, whatever, and a whole different set of criteria. So in terms of the wizard community in Reno, it's strong, strong, strong. As much as I love Reno, the one thing I wish Reno had more of was supportive muggles. Trying to get this great new music in the ears of new listeners is the biggest trick.
One, two, three. Sitting on a back step, waiting on a hurricane. My baby's inside, sleeping, dreams she can't explain. Winds of change are blowing, the forecast calls for rain. And just sitting, waiting on a hurricane. The way it builds up from the inside. The news reporters saying we should be prepared. Faithful they be praying, and others running scared. When I think of leaving, I wonder what's to gain. There's nothing worth believing, waiting on a hurricane. The way it builds up from the inside. You see it lives on. What you can't hide. Some dreams are given. Oh, be swept by. Glorify the fighter. Wars of will and pride. And hide in your surrender the battle scars inside. Your future visions seasoned with memories of pain. And here we are, just sitting down, waiting on a hurricane. Way it builds up from the inside. See it lives on. What you can't hide. Some dreams you give up. Don't be swept by.
Party tips from Tom.
Avoid flames.
Okay.
I had an incident in college with someone who could breathe fire, and in his dorm room, and was too drunk. He said, "I'll just show you." Set the curtains on fire and actually blew himself out the window and fell off the second floor. So
God.
That's pretty cool.
Good to learn that lesson early.